I'm going to make an opening statement here and then turn it over to my colleague, Senator Vitter, for his opening statement. I want to just say that this is a good day for the Senate to get on a bill that is a bipartisan bill where we've had unanimous support in the Environment and Public Works Committee, a bill that will create or save 500,000 jobs for our nation. And it's been a long time in coming. The last WRDA bill, the Water Resources Development Act, that was in '07. And this took a lot of work to get here. And the reason is we had to deal with changing the culture of the Senate away from earmarks in a bill like this, where projects were named, figure out a way we could move forward with these projects without earmarks. It was difficult. Senator Vitter and I and our staffs have worked hard to get to this point. I particularly want to say to both staffs, we couldn't have done it without your amazing focus. We're so appreciative. Our bill did make it through EPW without a single no vote. And since then, we've been working with almost every senator to hear their ideas, to get their reactions, to see if there were ways we could change the bill. And the committee's this substitute that Senator Vitter and I have put forward really incorporates the views of a whole array of senators. They know who they are. There's many of them. And we're very happy we were able to work with them. And of course, we will continue to work with them if there are ways we can even improve this bill more. So it's long past time. It was '07 that the last WRDA bill became law. So we have an infrastructure that is critical, and part of it is the water infrastructure, and that's what we deal with. So what does this bill do? We focus on flood control, we focus on ports, environmental restoration projects where the Corps has completed a comprehensive study, and then we also incorporate authorizations for projects that need modifications, that the modifications don't add to the overall cost of the project. And in the future, we developed a system that allows local sponsors to make their case directly to the Corps, because we are fearful that as new needs come up, there's no path forward. So we really do all that in this bill. I'm proud of a lot of provisions in this bill. One of them is what we call WIFIA, the Water Infrastructure Finance and Innovation Act. It's a way to assist localities in need of loans for flood control or wastewater or drinking water infrastructure to receive these loans up front. And let me explain it. We really expanded a program called TIFIA in the transportation bill, dealing with transportation infrastructure. And we said where a local government or a region came forward with, say, a sales tax or a bond for a series of transportation projects, and they wanted to move quickly and build them in a shorter time frame, as long as they had that steady stream of funding, we could, the federal government, without virtually no risk, advance these funds and let them build these projects quicker, creating jobs and improving the infrastructure quicker. Well, we did this with water. It's a smaller project, and it is not a replacement for our existing funding through the Corps and EPA. It's a supplement. It's a supplement that would help existing programs leverage more investment in our infrastructure. So WIFIA will allow localities an opportunity to move forward with water infrastructure projects in the same way that TIFIA works. Now, this bill is critical. I mean, let's just say what it is. And I know there are people who are going to offer amendments on subjects ranging, let's just say broad-ranging subjects. And it is their right to do it, and Senator Vitter and I know that, and it is what it is. It's the Senate, and people are going to come forward. But we really hope we won't get bogged down on these non-germane amendments, because so much is at stake. And I think this would be a good time for me to say some of the supporters of our bill. The American Association of Port Authorities, the American Concrete Pressure Pipe Association, the American Council of Engineering Companies, the American Farm Bureau, the American Foundry Society, the American Public Works Association, American Road and Transportation Builders. This goes on. I'd ask unanimous consent to place in the record several more organizations, Madam President. And I will say, we're looking at the Chamber of Commerce supporting this bill, the United Brotherhood of Carpenters and Joiners, the Waterways Council, the plumbing manufacturers. Wherever you look, whether it's business, it's labor, it's governmental entities, even the National, as I said, Farm Bureau, the Laborers International. It's a really important bill. Even the Commercial Real Estate Development Association. Why? Because they know if you're going to sell a house in an area that gets flooded, you need to address the flooding problems. So we do address flooding problems. We do address port deepening. And believe me, without these port deepenings, and a lot of our ports, not all of our ports need to do it, but commerce could come to a halt, and I would say almost a screeching halt. There may be a better terminology. But you have to dredge those ports to a certain depth so those vessels can move in and out. Let me talk about just one area in my home state. And Senator Vitter and I, we often say we see the world a little differently or a lot differently when it comes to a lot of issues. But when it comes to infrastructure, we have a lot in common. He had to face this horrific, catastrophic situation after Katrina, during Katrina, and I look at that issue and I say, oh my Lord, if we had something like that happen in Sacramento, what would happen? We have so many more people than they have in his state. We have more commerce there. We have more, we have the seat of the state government there in the Natomas Basin. So we have to strengthen the levees there. And we're talking about $7 billion in property. So we are really talking about a need to prevent terrible flooding. So that just talks about it in one area of my state. And I really want to thank Congresswoman Doris Matsui for all the work that she's done over in the House on this, and many others that have helped her over there. I just mention her name because she's been so involved in representing Sacramento. But our bill provides life-saving flood protection for more than 200,000 residents of Fargo, North Dakota, and Moorhead, Minnesota, who've been fighting rising waters in recent weeks, just like they do most years after the spring thaw. The bill will restore the reliability of the levee system that protects Topeka, Kansas. These levees protect thousands of homes and businesses, and this project will return over $13 in benefits for every dollar invested. Mr. President, you're a fiscal conservative. We are talking about a bill that invests $1 and gets $13 back. So flood control and flood protection is critical. All we have to do is look at Sandy and look what happened, and look at the Sandy, one event, $60 billion. So if we were to invest a portion of that in trying to mitigate these problems before they start, that's what the Word of Bill is all about and why it's so important and essential, and I hope it doesn't get bogged down in extraneous amendments. Now, you look, I talked about the ports, whether it's a project in Texas to widen and deepen the Sabine waterway, that'll have $115 million in annual benefits. It transports 100,000 tons of goods every year. It's the top port for movement of commercial military goods. So whether you're in a red state, whether you're in a blue state, whether you're in a purple state, or frankly any other state, there are any, you're protected in this bill. You're covered in this bill. Look at Florida, the Port of Jacksonville. Safety concerns there for ships entering and exiting this port because of dangerous cross currents. This bill will make it possible to protect that port. Critical ecosystem restoration, the Florida Everglades. If you've never been to the Everglades, you should go to the Everglades. It is a miraculous place, a God-given treasure, and we have to restore it. It needs our attention. So we definitely have 4 new Everglades restoration projects. We'll move forward in this bill. The Chesapeake Bay, the Columbia River Basin enable the Corps to work with states along the North Atlantic coast to restore vital coastal habitats from Virginia to Maine and allow the Corps to implement projects to better prepare for extreme weather in the northern Rocky Mountain states of Montana and Idaho. In addition, this is important, I talked a little bit about Superstorm Sandy. We have a new extreme weather title that I'm very proud of. This will enable the Corps to help communities better prepare for and reduce the risks of extreme weather-related disasters. How does it do it? For the first time, the Boxer-Vitter bill allows the Corps to conduct immediate assessment of affected watersheds following an extreme weather event. For example, if this was operational right after Katrina, the Corps would have gone right in there. They wouldn't have had to wait for an authorization. They wouldn't have to wait for an emergency supplemental. And they would have identified and constructed small flood control and ecosystem projects immediately, such as building levees, flood walls, restoring wetlands, and they wouldn't have to go through the full study process and receive authorization. After an extreme event, Mr. President, Senator Vitter and I and our whole committee believe it's an extraordinary circumstance. And if you can move right in there and mitigate the damage right away, you should do that with these smaller type projects. In this extreme weather title, we also require the Corps and the National Academy of Sciences to jointly evaluate options for reducing risks, including flooding and droughts related to future extreme weather events, because as far as we can tell, there's really no specific study that looks at the future. Now, the cost of this bill comes in well below the last WRDA bill, and we move toward a better use of the Harbor Maintenance Trust Fund. Now, let me be clear. Senator Vitter and I both believe it is a crucial issue to use the Harbor Maintenance Trust Fund for harbor maintenance. It just seems to me to be fair, and it seems to him to be fair. But what has happened over the years, because we have these budgetary problems, is the Harbor Maintenance Trust Fund is used for other uses. We wanted to totally take that fund away and saved for harbors. It wasn't going to happen. Too much controversy around it. What we were able to do, though, is to make sure that the appropriators knew our concerns. Senator Mikulski and Senator Shelby worked with us on a letter, and it really commits to helping us move toward the new authorization levels in this bill, which ratchet up spending on the ports. We also make sure that some of our ports that are donor ports, let's say the one in LA Long Beach, that don't have deepening issues on their channel, that need to use those funds for other uses, get a chance when those monies come in to have an opportunity to get back. Some of my people are paying in pennies on the dollar. It isn't fair. So we do try to address the issue of the larger ports, even the smaller ports, the Great Lakes, the seaports that are large donors to the fund. We make important reforms to the inland waterway system, which is critical for transporting goods throughout the country. Expediting project delivery is something we do, and I want to take a moment here. I want to be unequivocal on this project delivery piece. I stand here with credentials going back forever, and in my case, it's a long time. And I could say very proudly that every single environmental law stays in place in this bill. As a matter of fact, we have a savings clause, which specifically says all these laws stay in place. Now, Senator Vitter and I have a little disagreement over environmental laws. We have to work together. He stepped up and said, look, some of these agencies are holding up projects for years, and we're not getting our projects done. I thought that he had a point. So together, we worked on a compromise. It isn't everything he wanted, it isn't everything I wanted. But we are moving forward while saving all the environmental laws by making sure that when the Corps has a project and they complete their work, they issue something called a ROD, the Record of Decision. We make sure that all the agencies now are involved in setting the timetable for that ROD. And then the agencies have an additional 6 months after the date that they approved of to get their comments in. And if they don't, yes, they will get a penalty. And frankly, I think that's important. We do cap those penalties, but the fact of the matter is, we're here to do the people's business. And as long as we protect everyone's rights, which we do, and we bend over backwards to make sure all the agencies are involved in this, making sure the time frames around a ROD are fair and they're involved, we say, yes, you have to step up to the plate. I have examples in my state where the agencies have taken such a long time, whether, frankly, it's an environmental project or it's a construction project, a flood control, where agencies just aren't talking to each other. Well, Senator Vitter and I felt it was important to send a message. Now, look, the administration doesn't love this, and we understand it. But that's why we have separation of powers here, and we say it is only right to work together. So our bill isn't perfect, we know that, but I will tell you we support 500,000 jobs, we protect people from flooding, we enable commerce to move through our ports, we encourage innovative financing and leveraging of funds, and we begin the hard work of preparing for and responding to extreme weather. And I would defy anyone to tell us another bill that does those things. Protects jobs, protects people from flooding, enables commerce to move through our ports, encourages innovative financing and even more jobs, and preparing for and responding to extreme weather. So I just want to thank a couple of people by name here, and I will do more people later. I really do want to, of course, first and foremost, Senator Vitter, who has really been a pleasure to work with. We have had our moments where we haven't agreed. Our staffs had their moments when they didn't agree. We never got up in anger. We never walked away from the table. We stayed at the table. And to me, that's so important. And we did it on this bill. I wish we could do it on other things, but that's another day. But we're certainly doing it on this bill. So first and foremost, I want to thank him. Next, I want to thank Senators Mikulski and Shelby for writing a letter to us. It isn't all we want, but it really is a show of good faith. And I think it's precedent-setting that we have this letter saying they're going to do everything in their power to help. I want to thank Senator Vitter's colleague, Senator Landrieu. She's worked behind the scenes with me since Katrina, and I know the two of them have worked together. And I think her efforts, matched with Senator Vitter's, are very important for Louisiana. And I've been to Louisiana many times. I have warm relationships there. I certainly helped when it came to the Restore Act, and I certainly intend to remember everything the people there went through and to follow through on my commitments to them. So in this bill, we're fair to Louisiana, we're fair to California, we're fair to the Great Lakes, we're fair to the small port states, we're fair to the medium port states. We have done everything. We're fair to the states that have ports that have now have competition from international ports. And I do believe that if we can get through some of the sticky wickets of some amendments that really don't have anything to do with this, we can get through with that, we'll have a very good, strong bipartisan bill. And I honestly also believe that Chairman Schuster in the House will move forward as well. He's a terrific person to work with, and I enjoy working with him as well. And I think if we produce this work product and we can get it done this week, which I hope we can, it will make a big difference. Before I turn it over to Senator Vitter, let me just say, for the interest of all members, we are working on an agreement that will allow us to go to a couple of amendments aside. One of them will be the White House amendment, a couple would be Senator Coburn's, and we're looking at other amendments. So I hope we can have some votes this afternoon. We don't know at this point. That certainly is a hope of Senator Vitter and I. We would very much like to proceed. And with that, I would yield the floor.